could be in manufacturing, could be in tech. We all carry a level of workplace risk. It could be physical, could be mental, or even environmental. And how organizations respond to these risks defines the culture and the credibility of the organization. So we do believe that great organizations have their employees at the center of their operations. You understand that the team's advice, and the HR teams can second me on this. You understand that the team's advice or direct the direction of which the organization will take, both from a product and also from a revenue perspective. So in very many ways, the business really starts and ends with the people. And of course, we'll do our level best, of course, with the help of the experts in the call, to unpack the WIBA and what it really means, and go beyond, just compliance, and also look at it as a tool for protection for your employees, an accountability tool, and also a way to establish trust with your teams. And then lastly, would like to have our experts share their insights. These are experts who are seasoned in the space, have various experiences as well, and I'm sure they'll be able to more than willing to share some of the experiences they've had, maybe share some cases of how WIBA has come through when it comes to workplace compliance, and then we can take the conversation from there. So allow me to just quickly introduce our speakers of the day. We have Diana, who's a senior manager at WorkPay for benefits, and we also have Joe, who's an insurance expert, and he's gonna be able to tell us more about the same as well. And as we kickstart this particular discussion, I like to start it off with a quick poll. And the poll goes, how confident are you that your organization is fully WIBA compliant? Could be from HR, could be from business. And we have options. You feel free to say you do not know at all. You might have not had an experience with WIBA, so feel free to just be as blunt and as truthful as you can, because then we're able to advise on the way forward. So the poll is, how confident are you that your organization is fully WIBA compliant? So you have choices to say, you're very confident, somewhat, if you're in the in-betweens, not really sure what where your organization stands. And then of course, if you're not sure, let us know. And if you have completely no idea, you're probably hearing WIBA for the first time, we're more than happy to hear that as well and take it from there. So just feel free to give us, responses of the poll, and then I think we'll take it from there. Just feel free to go to the poll and respond. I can see the responses are coming in thick and fast. A good chunk of us is very confident, which is very reassuring as well. And it also sets the stage for the conversation of the day today. I can see we have at least 30% sitting at somewhat confident. So there's a good chunk of the audience in the call today that is not really sure where they stand. And then of course there's a 26% sitting at not sure. So we hope that we are able to fully demystify what WIBA is, and even educate some of the teams represented here on how to best go forward from this discussion. And of course, there's a small percentage of us who have no idea what WIBA is, and we will endeavor to ensure that we create an awareness around it. At least you come out of this call somewhat with an idea of what it is, and maybe you can take the initiative to pitch it internally, or if you sit at the decision table, you can be able to engage with us, and we'll be able to fully enable your organization to be fully compliant on this. I think this sets the stage for our first speaker, who's Joe Gutu. And I'd just like to allow Joe to introduce himself, and then I'll have a quick follow-up question to the same. Joe, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, audience today, who are here to know more about what WIBA stands for and how can it help in your organization. And also, if you are a staff member or an employee, also how you need to know also the benefits that comes with it. So it's quite important to know all this, and you'll be able to unpack this together in this webinar. My name is Joe Gutu. Can say I'm an insurance professional or expert, if you like. I've been doing this for the last 13 years, and it's all about impacting knowledge. What can we do to transfer risk from yourself to an insurance company, so that at the end of the day, we are well protected. We don't go into our pockets to cater for certain risks that you can transfer to an insurer. So welcome today, and I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I'd like also to allow Diana to just do a quick introduction as we dive into the conversation of the day.
All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan. And from my side, now that we have global outreach, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Diana Njuguna, and I serve as the benefits manager here at WorkPay. And I'm an insurance professional with over 12 years experience, spanning from B2B insurance sales, insurtech, and business development across African markets. My passion lies in building inclusive and technology-driven insurance solutions, and that makes protection more accessible and practical for both employers and employees. And that is why I am here at WorkPay, championing the same. Thank you, Jonathan, and welcome to everyone. We are excited to hold these conversations and share insights on how we can leverage on innovation and also make insurance not just part of our compliance, but also a real business advantage. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana, for that introduction. And our audience can clearly see that you're in safe hands, seasoned professionals, years of proven track record in the space. And so you can rest assured that you come out of this call either compliant or actively looking to be compliant. And I'd like to kickstart us with a quick question to Joe. He's mentioned that he's a seasoned insurance professional, and by so saying, he's conversant with the WIBA labor requirement. And I'd like him to just demystify, what WIBA really is and why it becomes such a critical topic for employers today. Talk us through maybe experiences you've had with WIBA, what exactly it means, and why it is a differentiator in the marketplace today. Joe?
Right. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, of course, WIBA is one of good benefits that employers provide for their employees, in that just to protect them from work-related injuries, and also what we call occupational diseases that arise from the jobs that staff members do. So the reason why it's very important is that at times we understand the various jobs that you do, be it in a factory setting, be it whether you're working in an office environment where you think maybe you're safe, things happen. And when things happen, when you are in a certain area and you are not maybe well aware of the kind of injuries that may occur, so it's all about risk transfer. So if, for example, even you're in an office setting and you're working maybe in a place that is wet, that was not clearly marked, that is wet, that already maybe there's some cleaning that happened, and you happen even to hurt yourself, as a person, as an employee, you have the right to sue your employer for not taking good care of you. So and any other thing that maybe that you find the employer maybe has not maybe repaired quite well, and and you're injured. Now, to the employee, that's a good recourse. But also, not if we look at the flip side to an employer, it's very important to transfer this risk, because these are occupational accidents that can occur. We are not planning that they should be happening, but when they happen, you should not affect, let's say, your profit and loss in paying this lump sum expenses to your team members. So very, very important that employers have this WIBA coverage, so that you can be able to compensate your employees in the event this happen. So like I said, WIBA ideally caters for work-related injuries arising from the work when the working hours that the employees at work, and also the occupational diseases. So it's quite different from the personal accident, whereby the personal accident only covers injuries. But now there's another addition, which is occupational diseases when you're at work. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I think you've pretty much broken down, what WIBA is, how it's beneficial to the staff. And I'm sure at this point, I've seen that Paul has tilted more to the somewhat side of things. So a good chunk of the audience, at least 38% of the audience, has an idea, but not really clear about it. And I'm sure with the conversations we're having right now, it sort of sets the stage of what WIBA is, and sort of further hones in on how to use it as an employee and also as an employer, so that you're not, as well as Joe as well said, incurring costs that you had not forecasted and affecting your P&L as well. And maybe Joe, to follow up with a question, from your experience, have you had any cases where WIBA has really stepped in to, say, pay a complaint on behalf of companies? Any good examples that come top of mind that you can share with us today?
Now, of course, yes. And one thing I'll let you know is that, of course, employers now, with the WIBA Act, maybe in the context of Kenya, but also I'm sure maybe there's like a global thing that is there, is that employers now allowed to take cover from an authorized insurer. So it's very important for employers to take this cover with an insurer. And like I said earlier, it's all about the risk transfer. Maybe removing from the cost that will incur out of this injury that maybe might even render you redundant because of certain expenses that you're going to incur. So you just transfer it to an insurer, but at a small premium fee. So an example I can give is whereby one, I could say maybe just on a personal level, one of my clients' agent, a sales agent, was in a motorbike and was hit by another car. Unfortunately, they passed on. The beauty about it is, as much as there's a salesperson in the field, they are still within the working hours of this job. And of course, when the claim came, of course, which we'll discuss later on how the documentations that are required, we were able to at least help in this claim process, and we compensated the family the amount that is due to the staff member. So, and then this, you'll find out it's beneficial. All this risk and every day, you find that the employer did not even pay any cent towards the family. So it's quite very important for each employer to have it. And did I mention these are mandatory cover that each and every employer should have? So if you don't have it, you find yourself in trouble.
That's great to mention, Joe. So it is not only just a requirement and as a way to safeguard yourself as a business, but it also is a statutory requirement that you have WIBA, especially in Kenya. I know there are different names around the globe for the same, but I think it's a mandatory statutory that every business should be compliant to. I think before we jump to the next section, we have two questions. I would want to assume that these questions are in relation to the first agenda of the day. So I'd like to just allow a small window for us to take those. There's one from Babatunde. Babatunde, please feel free to unmute and shoot your question. Babatunde, confirm you can hear us, yeah? Okay, Babatunde seems to have dropped his hand. Maybe answer Rogers's question. Rogers, feel free to unmute and shoot your question. We'll be able to take that up before we move ahead. Just confirm you can hear us. Okay, so what we'll do is feel free to drop the questions on the chat if you're not able to unmute and ask. We'll be able to pick them up, of course, within the course of the engagement. I'd like us to, go to the second session of the webinar. Really, I thank you, Joe, for really unpacking WIBA for us and just touching all the facets that involves WIBA, and also you highlighting the compliance nature of it. And for businesses operating in Kenya, it is a key requirement. And of course, WorkPay leading this conversation is one of the leading partners when it comes to WIBA compliance and benefits. So feel free to engage us if you're not already compliant or if you're having any challenges with your current provider. And before we go to the next, section of this particular webinar, I'd like to just engage our audience and understand, where they sit when it comes to have they seen WIBA. Have you ever managed or witnessed a workplace injury claim, and how was it handled? Just feel free to respond to this particular poll. The poll should be coming up shortly. If you faced it directly, please let us know. We're more than happy to hear, how that was like. And secondly, whether it was indirectly, maybe a friend, a colleague, went through an injury and they had to go through the entire claim process. Joe did talk about how that is handled both from an employer and employee perspective. And then if you haven't, just feel free to say no. And then if you prefer not to disclose, that is also still a response, a valid response. And we'll be more than happy to hear it from your end side of things, and pick it up from there. Please feel free. The poll should be up by now. We'll be looking out for the responses, whether you have come across someone who's been injured or you've been directly affected. We'll be more than happy to hear that. And with the experts on the call, you can even get advisory on how to handle it if it's a fresh occurrence, or if not, subsequently or in the future, you'll be well versed on how to best address that. The poll is running. Feel free to give us your responses, and we most appreciate, how you've been, tagging along this particular conversation and following keenly. You can see the responses are coming in thick and fast. I can see that a good chunk of us have not experienced this, which is great, but it's also very good to be cognizant of the importance of it as a benefit. I can see there's a good 24% of our audience today that has directly faced this, which is also great. And then, of course, indirectly, we have a good chunk of the teams who've faced this, not directly, but indirectly. So I think this sort of sets the stage for Diana, who's very vast in benefits and WIBA, and understanding how, it's the entire application of you being compliant to it, both from an employer and also an employee perspective. And I'd like to just invite Diana to, help us cover how, WIBA is structured, the intent of WIBA, and also talk us through what this means for both entities, both the employers and also the employees in a day-to-day practice. You will hear about it and it being a mandatory statutory requirement, but then to further hone it in, to further bring it home, what exactly does it mean for these two parties? From a business perspective, from an employer perspective, the employer might want to argue that it's a cost to the business, and of course, from an employee perspective, the employee might feel not covered or not well taken care of by the employer. So please, Diana, help us, put it in a very practical manner and and break down the importance of it on a day-to-day practice. Diana, please take it away.
Thank you, Jonathan. And maybe before I proceed, I just want to say thank you to Joe for such a powerful breakdown of what WIBA really is and why it matters, and bringing it home and looking at it in a practical way. How really does it play out for employers managing people every day, and how are employees dependent on that protection? Simply putting it from a perspective of an employer is that for most employers, compliance starts with the basics. We need to ensure that we have basic information about our employees, and that means keeping accurate records, ensuring every person under the payroll is covered, and placing cover for employees under their correct category. And what does this really mean? When it comes to WIBA, like Joe had mentioned, usually the premiums are really negligible. They are not very high. It's not such an expensive insurance cover, but usually gives a lot of protection to the employer and its business, and also helps the employee build trust with their employer. And so ensuring that the employee records are clear, ensuring that you actually cover all your employees, and this includes even the interns, and ensuring they are captured correctly in their categories is really key, because if Joe would tell you more, especially working in the directly with an insurer, when it comes to WIBA claims, one of the challenges is usually if an employer had placed an employee as an office staff, then they are actually sales employees, and a claim is actually registered from when the employee is in the field, because that therefore means that you actually breached the contract by having the employee in the field. And so it is always important for employers to ensure that they place the employees under their correct category, because WIBA, when it comes to pricing, is basically what does the employee do for you as an organization, what is their role, and how much do they earn. Those are usually the main scopes of how the work injury benefit is actually priced. So it is important to ensure that the employee information is actually accurate, and the designation of the employee is also correctly captured. And then when it comes to work pay, we embed our WIBA or our work injury solutions to our HR and payroll solutions. And this helps you as an employer to stop having this as a manual role, and it helps you run it in a responsible and modern way of running your business. And that really is where organizations that fail to actually take up such covers go wrong, because they treat compliance as an event and not a process. And so at WorkPay, we help you to be able to place your work injury covers on a timely manner and also on a rhythmic manner, just to ensure that this is a continuous process, it is seamless for you, and it is also in a digital space where you're able to track all your processes. But when you talk about, Jonathan, the cost implication, or what exactly happens if an employer is caught off guard and their employee sustains work injury, what exactly could happen, and what is the cost of this negligence? When we talk about compliance, neglecting WIBA can look harmless, but until something goes wrong, does employers actually realize that this cost is really expensive? And why so? Because this is not just a legal issue, and looking at our scope like WorkPay, we are able to identify that now that we have existence in over 35 African countries, it means that we are able to review the compliance requirements of most African countries. And it is very visible that employers are expected to legally be able to protect their employees against any work injury accidents or acquired illnesses. And so not being able to offer such a cover would really cause an employer to face very high penalties, including bridging trust issues with your employees, because it is very important for employees to know that covers are placed for them so that they have peace of mind and they're able also to deliver at work effectively. So the deeper truth is that it is important for every employer to have a work injury cover for their employees. And remember that most employees remember how their employer shows up in the moments of vulnerability. And what does this mean? It means that that moment defines how your brand is viewed out there. And this goes beyond the kind of marketing campaigns that employers can even do, especially in current social media trends where, X or LinkedIn can really build or tarnish your name as an employer. It is important that employers ensure that really they have cover and protection for their employees. And this cover can also be used by you as an employer, as a business differentiator. What does this mean? It means that it will help you retain and attract good talents in your organizations, because the moment you confirm that you have such covers for them, it means they have peace of mind and they know that even in the instance where at the worst death would happen, it means that their dependents would also be compensated, because probably they were their breadwinner and so they would now no longer be in existence. So in today's world, care isn't just compliance. It is important to build a strong employee culture as an employer, and that culture becomes your strongest competitive advantage. I think too much towards the employer, and at this point, I would want to go to the employee and maybe just speak about what is it that work injury means for the employee. And this comes along with wanting that employees know their rights and protection. Like Joe clearly stated, this is not just a need, it is a requirement for every employer to have a work injury cover. And therefore, every employee, regardless of their title or their role, they have the right to compensation in case they are injured during their work. And that includes medical treatment, it includes disability benefits, and that is in case there is temporary or permanent illnesses or any severe cases like death. So employees ought to be aware that regardless of who you are in an organization, then you have a right to compensation. And this goes directly to the employer and not the insurance company. And understanding how these employees would speak out for protection to their employers means that employees could also probe these conversations to their employers. It is important that employees know that this is a requirement and they can start these conversations with their employers, because the premiums are also not very high. And like Joe mentioned, it is literally just transferring the risk from the employer and moving it to the insurance company. And that helps maintain a good business trajectory, in the sense that you won't dip into your profits or you won't dip into your finances of running your business to actually compensate employees. Therefore, I would want to leave everyone with a comment and just a highlight mentioning that WIBA is designed to protect you, whether an employer or an employee, and ensuring that you keep proper records, you record any happenings of a claim early. It really is meant to ensure it gives you care and compensation that you deserve, and also ensure sustainability of your business. Thank you very much, Jonathan. I think back to you. to proceed with this conversation?
Thanks, Diana. I think you've pretty much touched all angles when it comes to both employer and employees, and where WIBA comes in and what it means for them to for the two parties to have it. And I like that you've demystified the whole notion that WIBA is a cost center to the business. It's good that you brought that out very clearly, because in most cases businesses will look at it as something that eats into their P&L. But then if you look at it holistically, then it's not, even from your professional advice and having administered it over the years, you can clearly say that it's a cost saver, if anything, to the businesses, because some of these injuries are never anticipated for. You don't plan for your employees to get injured during the tenure or the course of duty, and when it happens, then it's not a panic alert or as you well said, an instant solution or a need solution, but it's a process. It's for them being compliant throughout the period of the statutory requirement, and then when such cases do happen, then the insurer is able to come in and actually foot the bill for that particular incident. I think we can answer some questions. There's one here for Joe that says, please speak on the difference between WIBA and medical insurance. I think, Joe, you can go first, and then we can also have you, Diana, just chime in on the same. Some of our audience is a bit confused between the two. So Joe, feel free to just unmute and help us unpack the two and differentiate the two rather.
So WIBA and medical cover. So
yes.
So WIBA ideally, like as I started mentioning, it covers only work-related injuries and occupational diseases. What do I mean by occupational diseases? These are maybe the work that staff might be doing. They might contract certain diseases. For example, if you're working in maybe in a cold area, these are, you find yourself maybe getting things like pneumonia and such, or even the frost bites and all. So those are maybe occupation because of the work that you're doing. Or even maybe in a dusty area, so maybe now your lungs maybe might be clogged, and now maybe have other complications. So those are occupational diseases. Now, WIBA again, like it is only caters for work-related injuries. But a medical cover will cover you against acute illnesses or chronic conditions that you might have. So and not necessarily related to accident, but WIBA purely it has to be accident related. So that's the big difference that comes between a medical cover and WIBA cover. And remember, under WIBA benefit, we normally have a medical expense benefit. So this medical expense benefit will not cater for you if you have acute illnesses or any other illnesses that is not work injury related. So the medical benefit under WIBA will only cover you if you are accidentally injured. So now they will deduct that expense because you are being treated for an injury, not an illness. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe, for that response. I think you pretty much answered it end-to-end. Unless, Diana, you have anything you want to add to the same, feel free to just jump in.
I think it's okay, Jonathan. Let us continue because Joe has really responded and I can see we have many more questions.
Okay, super. Yeah, so I'll just go directly to the second question, which says, what is the correct procedure to follow when a staff has been involved in an accident leading to permanent disability? Diana, do you want to pick that?
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. And in case of an accident, whether permanent or even just temporary disability, the first thing is usually to ensure that you report the claim immediately and preferably within 24 hours. And usually you're more advised to report to your HR or to your supervisor so that the same is actually notified to the underwriter. Secondly is ensuring that you get medical attention right away, ideally from an approved healthcare provider, and ensure that you keep every documentation, that is medical notes, prescriptions, receipts, because that literally forms part of your claim file. And thirdly, your employer is meant now to ensure that they pick up all that documentation and share it with the insurer, because usually the cover is taken by the employer on behalf of their employees. So your HR or those that deal with the insurance covers will have to put that together, put the entire documentation together and forward it to the insurer for processing. And of course, that is where the DOSH 1 and DOSH 2 forms come in, and that those ones are usually completed by the employer and reported to the various authorities to ensure that approval is given, and so the insurance company is able to offer compensation. However, it's important to note that because I can see other conversations around a claim for WIBA, it is important that we realize that for WIBA, why we use the designation of the employee and their salary scale, it's because compensation is purely based on how much that employee has been earning. And so any compensation is penned down by how much were you earning. If you early disability, usually they'll give you either between 52 weeks to 104 weeks as per what your 3 months previous salaries were. And so these are conditions that are usually legally stated. And so it's not really a compensation that is really determined by individuals. These are laws that are already put in place, especially in markets where there exists a WIBA Act. So it's important to understand that documentation, timely reporting are the main important features of claims reporting, so that you can have a smooth process, fair and transparent one, and also ensure that you get the care and compensation that you deserve. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Diana. And maybe to just batch that together with a similar question that says, can a small organization which has not registered with DOSH obtain WIBA cover for employees? So this is closely related to what you just gave us. Would you want to also just respond to that?
I would allow Joe to take up that, but I know every organization is allowed to actually take up a WIBA cover, because when it comes to DOSH, then it means that we are completing this because you're an organization running with employees. So usually the DOSH is usually completed at that point of a claim and not necessarily previously registered.
Thanks, Diana. Joe, do you want to chime in?
Yeah. So yes, even all organizations, be it even an SME that has employees, as long as you have employees working for you, WIBA is a must. And remember, you can get WIBA from even as low as even two employees. We can quote for WIBA. Others we can quote maybe from 3 and above, but even 2, we can give you a WIBA quotation. Now, the reason to have WIBA, and when the point of claim comes, remember, she has mentioned that there are these forms that we need to fill, the DOSH 1, 2, and even DOSH 4. So it's very important also to register your organizations to the Directorate of Occupational Safety and Health Services. That's the meaning of DOSH. So you need to register for your organization there, so that the point you present this documentation, they will verify them and also verify that also you're registered with them, and they'll approve them and give you back so that you can present them to an underwriter. So to verify the question is yes, even small organization can take up WIBA.
Thanks, Joe, for that. I think that's well covered, and it has answered a lot of the other questions around, whether an SME or small organization can take. So as low as 2, Joe has well told us that we're able to quote for the same and be able to administer WIBA. The other question would be just one last question, and then we can hop back into the conversation. And I'd request Diana, you take this, is what if you get miscarriage while at work due to an accident? How much do they owe you for pregnancy of 6 months? So maybe you can just give us your own professional advice on this.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. And yes, from a miscarriage while at work, and this is accident related while at work, then the claims process for WIBA, as earlier mentioned, is pretty standard, because then that means as much as it was a pregnancy of 6 months, it's not usually amounted to the period of pregnancy or the kind of damage that really occurred. If it is such loss, then it is basically looked at from the basis of how much were you earning previously and how long would you require to be at home temporarily before you're able to get back to work. And so that is how then the compensation is actually calculated. So for how long are you temporarily out of work because of the accident that happened and the loss that happened, and then you're compensated based on what your earnings are. And remember, this is over and above what you continue earning, because we assume that your employer will continue remitting your salaries. And so this is purely based on the WIBA cover. So I hope that is clear for Dennis.
Thank you, Diana, for that. I think keep on posting the questions. We'll be able to pick those at the tail end of this discussion. I think we'll jump into a quick poll and then just go to the next conversation, just to make sure that we are also cognizant of time. I know it's a small window to cover a lot of the questions, but rest assured that all your questions will be responded to. And we also have our channels open. We have currently live on YouTube. We have our LinkedIn, which is available, and we also have our marketing emails, which are available for any questions. Our experts cut across the market, the globe, essentially. So we cover essentially all the African markets, and for markets outside of Africa, we have partners, strategic partners that we work with to ensure that we keep you compliant all the time, every time. And the poll is, which of the following will help you most with WIBA management? Which of the following will help you most with WIBA management? And this is mostly skewed towards HR experts, admins within teams. You best know your teams, and would want to understand what would best help you with most WIBA management. And some of the choices are awareness training, which we offer, and of course easy claim processing, which Joe and Diana have really tried to demystify and really break it down for us on how the process is, what files need to be filed at what stage, and then of course integrated HR systems. In most cases, you just want to plug into one partner and you're instantaneously compliant. And that is what WIBA does and has done now for quite a number of years. And then of course, expert guidance. So, and the beauty of us understanding this is we have a whole suite of solutions that cover all this, and we best know what to administer at what particular stage. So feel free to participate in the poll. It's up already. Feel free to just hop in there and give us your response. And maybe just to repeat the poll, it says, which of the following will help you most with WIBA management? Just feel free to give us a response. If it's all of the above, go for it. We have experts in the room. We have awareness. Part of these webinars create that particular awareness. So we've tried as much as possible to answer some of the questions that I think the teams represented here had, and we'll continue doing that down the line. And so just before we move to the second last section of the webinar, I'd like to give a reflective question to our speakers today. I'd like them to give us examples of how WIBA misconception has led to organizations either losing revenue or getting fines or getting into regulatory trouble. If there are any examples that you can point out, you don't necessarily have to give us the names. Just feel free to give us examples. And having been in the space, you're best placed to advise us on the same. So you can give us examples of how WIBA misconception has affected organizations. And if there are any examples, you can use pseudonyms and we can have an understanding of how that has affected businesses. And then we can pick it up from there. Diana, do you want to go first?
Yes, Jonathan, and thank you for your question. And just to respond again and just refer to an earlier conversation, like I had earlier mentioned, when it comes to employers failing to be compliant, it means that employees have the authority to actually even go to the court of law and sue the employer for any work injury incidents that occurred and led to either temporary or permanent disabilities or even death. So, for example, I during my corporate lives, I remember one of our clients who failed to place their WIBA cover on time. And of course, when it comes to insurance, covers are usually time on risk, which literally means that you ought to have been on cover for us to actually compensate you. So even if it is 2 days later that you forgot to actually place cover and an accident happens to your employee, it means that Joe here would tell you you are not on cover, and so the company is not liable to any claims that may occur. Anyway, why this example really comes out strongly to me is because, number one, there was negligence from the employer in the sense that they were really taking time to actually confirm renewal for the cover. And the main reason being that they had had cover for 2 previous years and no claim had been registered. Unfortunately, during the window where they were having management conversations on whether it is important for them to still take up cover, the incident occurred, which really costed them a big deal because unfortunately the employee was hospitalized for such a long period and later actually even passed on. This case literally came back to the insurer because they really wanted an ex gratia kind of payment. But unfortunately, because the period was already lapsed for a month with frequent reminders sent to them for renewal and them failing to renew, it meant that they would not transfer the risk to the insurer, and so they were to take it up. Unfortunately, when death even occurs, it means that even the payout is even higher than you would imagine when it's just temporary or permanent disability. So what happened is that the company was actually sued by the family of this employee, and they had to literally cough off all their profits for the past like 4 years, because it was not such a big organization, but really had very risky employees, had really risky tasks to their employees. So it is important that employers remain conversant with the fact that as much as work injury benefits are more of a compliance requirement, we also need to take care of the health of our employees because they help us deliver our solutions in our businesses. So this is a very good example showing that it is important to ensure that you timely offer covers for your employees, and besides that, ensure that your employees are happy to work for you, because after that, apart from the employee actually suing the company, there was a lot of attrition from the organization because employees were wondering what would happen to me next if such an incident actually happened. So yes, I believe that's a really good example, Jonathan, and back to you.
Thanks, Diana, for that example. And I think the teams represented here are taking good notes. It's good to learn from somebody else's experience, and it saves you a lot of time and money for sure. A follow-up question would be to Joe. How can HR teams better communicate the value of WIBA to employees? And do you have any examples of cases where HR managers have actually championed these to employees and made it very clear on what WIBA is and means to them as employees?
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you also, Diana, for highlighting a few of those misconceptions. Number one, remember, this benefit is normally provided by the employer to the employee, so it is more of the HR being of the organization to provide this for their employees. Given that the example that Diana has given of whereby you are using your profits to pay for these claims because you did not renew on time or you did not take this cover. So it's very important for now the employer to have this cover for the employees. One of the misconceptions which I've highlighted earlier is that maybe they are the same as a medical cover, so which it is not the case. Or alternatively, I can see there's a question here. If someone was asked, if someone works on night shift, does WIBA cover or do we have WIBA Plus? So maybe as I answer that also is that, remember, WIBA covers you during normal working hours. So even if you're working at night, you'll be covered under WIBA. Where WIBA will not cover you if in the event that maybe let's an example is you're 8 to 5 person and maybe you had this accident, for example, at 10 at night, or even 3 a.m. in the morning. So WIBA will not cover you. But how to go around this is normally to have this cover, which you have called WIBA Plus, or that another name we give it is GPA WIBA. But that will be a discussion for another day, because remember, GPA will cover you 24 hours. But WIBA is normally covers you at normal working hours. If you're 8 to 5, or maybe if you're a night shift person from 6 p.m. To maybe 6 a.m. in the morning, it will cover you. That is the purpose of WIBA. Another misconception maybe people have is that you can under-declare earnings in the organization, whereby I find maybe certain employers are crafty. Maybe I'm earning 100,000 per month, but that is like almost 1.2 per year, and then maybe you understate it maybe to 50,000, so that you pay less premium amount. This will come to bite you later, because even Diana mentioned that will require the past 3 months' salary when you're filing the claim. So when there's that mismatch in the claim documentation, there'll be issues to you, and a lot of penalties are going to be slapped on yourself. Again, maybe the other things also relate to notifications. We understand maybe even an accident can occur over the weekend. So normally give a period of 7 days just to notify us, maybe just even prepare everything, but always good to just notify as quickly as possible at the correct time that you are able to just to notify. The other thing also, being a legal requirement, you'll find that maybe your casual employees or even your interns or people you are in contract do not require WIBA. Shock on you, WIBA is required for everyone. And when you talk to an insurer, we can provide good quotations, as long as you just specify exactly the kind of work they're coming to do for you. If maybe if there's for just 3 months. Remember also, interns nowadays, we require them to take personal accident cover when they're working for you. So that's normally a temporary kind of cover. And even you just mentioned it's internship and we'll cater for them. You don't have to include them in your WIBA kind of cover, but yes, you can. Just you can even ask them. If you don't want the cost, normally tell the intern, make sure before you come, we require you to have like a personal accident cover to the tune of $500,000 or even 1 million when you're coming. Again, there are certain cases at times that people think they can defraud the insurer. Where we see such cases might occur, we normally do investigation. And when investigations are done and we find these are being fraudulent, that claim is going to be repudiated and they won't be paid. But all in all, it's a simple kind of product. But and as you say, failure to comply to it, of course, will just land you into a lot of problems. So it's just better. Don't assume maybe like normally maybe accident cannot occur in my organization. Maybe accident will occur in organization B or A. Us, we can't have that. Maybe we are protected by the blood of Jesus. But remember, the blood of Jesus is WIBA. In this context. So it's good to have this cover because Jesus would come down now to protect you when issues are here. So make sure you just have that WIBA cover. I think now examples that I can give one. In Kenya, maybe you can Google this. Like we said, don't mention names. There's a case in Thika town, whereby an employee fell into one of the boilers. These are steel boilers. And the only thing that they could retrieve are the joint bones and the dental, the teeth from that employee. Now, unfortunately, this employer did not have WIBA, but they are trying to be crafty just to compensate the family to a tune of around 400,000 thereabout. But it got the whim of other maybe lawyers here and there, and they advised the family that they should not take anything less, almost to a tune of also 20 million thereabout. So it's a big court case currently, and even they upped the pay to around just above $1 million, but it's still not sufficient to compensate the employee, given that this employee also had worked for 7 years, 2 as in contract, but 5 as a permanent employee. So that requires a lot of compensation to the family. So that's one case. The other case maybe might be good. We'll find by an employer just was okay, compliant, everything, filed every documentation that is there. The employee was treated, we catered for the bills, medical expenses bills, and when it came for compensating the staff member for the permanent disability, we even gave the correct compensation. And as Diana said, it's a good gesture. Even the other employees will be happy even to work with you because that you take care of their affairs in the event you just don't leave them. So these are benefits just we need to think more about so that we provide for employees. And remember, we also allow when an employee leaves the organization, you can delete them, and when another one comes, you can also add them. And when this happens, remember there's some premium that you're paid. Of course, we will prorate them for you. And that's so maybe just pay a little amount extra to run for the remainder of the period of the year. So I think those are, for to answer you, Jonathan, those are a few examples that I can give.
Thanks a lot, Joe. And I think I like the response because it also covered a lot of the questions, some of the questions we're having on the chats. And it's good that you give real life examples of what WIBA can do for an organization. With a good Jesus example right there, it's good to have Jesus, but then it's good also to take precautions and measures to protect yourself, not only as an organization, but also ensure as an employee, as you negotiate for your contract, that your employer has these particular benefits for your own safety and coverage. I think we'll pick a few more questions. And as we do the same, allow me to just put up the poll. So we'll have the poll running concurrently as we speak to or answer to some of the questions that we have. And the poll says, how valuable will this webinar in improving your understanding of WIBA? And I think we will still continue to deliver value in the next 20 or so minutes that we have remaining. And the whole idea is let the poll run. Let's the teams represented here respond to that. Feel free to be as honest as possible. If you did not find value, just let us know. We'll work on our craft and next time better it. But if you found value, please feel free to give us your feedback and review. That poll will be up in a few, but as we await the same, I'd like us to pick a few more questions as well. And so one of the questions that we have here, and I'd request Diana to pick it, is what if you, I think this has been answered in another shape or form. So I'll go to the next question, which says, is WIBA also for short-term consultants in the field? And I think Joe sort of spoke to this, but Diana, you can just quickly brush through to hone it home as we continue on thinking. I can see there are a lot of questions on the chat. Thank you guys for really being very engaging and asking these very pertinent questions. Diana, do you want to pick that?
Yes, Jonathan, and thank you to our participants in engaging us in these conversations. I think it just speaks to us and tells us that the time was really short to handle this. But yes, is WIBA also available for short-term consultants in the field? Yes, is the answer. WIBA is available for any employee that is available. Usually, like Joe has mentioned, you have the opportunity to actually add and delete employees as they come into your organization. And that is the bit that I had mentioned, that at WorkPay, we are able to assist you with advisory when it comes to placement of cover and even management of cover. What management literally means is where instances where you have interns who work for example, 1 year with you and they're purely interns. In that instance, then it is always advisable that you also take up a WIBA cover for them, because what Joe mentioned is that nowadays interns are encouraged to come with their own personal accident cover. But if you employ interns to actually conduct normal duties, you are encouraged to also have them covered under your WIBA cover. And so regardless of how long your employees are working for you, you're encouraged to have them into your WIBA cover, because really we charge, or rather insurers charge for the employees and what exactly they do. So it is important that we also have cover for every other individual that is working for you. And maybe to take up another question that I'm seeing is that, what if the company does not have a physical office but have field teams? Even remote teams are covered for WIBA, because if you have employees that are field employees, it means that you will provide their designation as field employees or sales teams. And so when it comes to rating for what premiums you will pay, the same will be charged correctly. What insurance literally asks for is utmost good faith in declaring accurate information of your employees. Back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Diana, for that. Pardon me, there's just been a glitch on my end, but thanks for that very articulate feedback. I think we'll pick some few more questions. I think we have around 19 or so minutes to go. Feel free to just drop the questions on the chat. We'll pick them on the go. There's one that says, and I'd like to direct this to Joe, in the event of temporary disability requiring the affected employee to be redesignated, would termination be considered unlawful if the organization has no suitable opportunity for such designation, given that compensation for the disability has already been settled under WIBA? Joe, you can try pick that for us, please.
Okay, I'll try to be the HR professional here. Yes. But I believe we are in a employee are in a certain relationship whereby the employee assists the employer in achieving certain goals. And if this is not attainable, because remember, there's a certain disability that will render you can't work 100%. Yeah. So yes, you can designate this employee. Of course, the compensation will have happened, and any other benefit that they were expected to have, it's good just to provide for them so that even they can recuperate and get better as much. Then because you need maybe for example, if it's a sales kind of work, it's a field work, maybe if you're a driver or in the event, so remember now you can't continue driving, so of course you have to designate this staff member, or even just even cease operation with them so that they can get to take time just to get better, and then as you continue with your business. So it's lawful. That's what I can say. It's lawful. Yes.
Thank you for that, Joe. We'll pick some more questions. So this one I'd like to direct to Diana. So does WIBA still cover employees working remotely from an office / work site at home during work hours? I think these are great questions, especially for remote teams.
Yes, it does, Jonathan. Even for remote teams, WIBA is effective because it literally means that you're still working for the organization, and one time or another, at times, it could be an occupational hazard that has actually occurred. For example, some people end up having permanent back pains because of the kind of work they do. And so if you can really substantiate that this is as a result of your remote working, then it is a possibility that you can get covered. But because this WIBA is meant to be accidental, then you need to show that it was actually also an accident during your work hours. But even for remote teams, yes, WIBA is applicable. The other bit, Jonathan, if you allow me to cover, is a question I have seen in terms of where an organization that is an employer of record within Kenya, but handling consultants based in different countries. Yes, WIBA applies, and in this case, the employer will have to remit premiums to the employer of record, so that then the employer of record ensures that they cover the employee appropriately in the different countries that they are located in.
Yeah, and also to add on that, WIBA normally the jurisdiction is normally, for example, we are in Kenya, but the geographical limit is worldwide. So even if injuries happens when you're outside the country, we'll be able to cater for you also.
Thank you for that, Joe. I think it's good that we've covered that as well, because one of also the products that WorkPay offers is employer of record services. So for some of the clients from the employer of record service, it's good that you get the reassurance from our experts here that your teams will be fully covered when it comes to that. I think we can pick two more. I see the questions are coming in thick and fast, which is great. It looks like Diana, Joe will need to have another session to just further respond to the queries we're having. So one of the questions is, how does WIBA work for organizations that are fully okay? So I think, Diana, you've picked that. Let me just go through this quickly. So there's one that says, also medical expenses under WIBA, does the insurer pay directly for the medical cost, or the employer covers it, then they later make claims? So just to make sure I understood this directly, it says on the medical expenses under WIBA. Then do you get a question, or it says,
yeah.
Yes.
We get it.
Okay, super, please.
Diana, do you want to go?
I think you had actually answered this, Joe, where you mentioned that the medical cover literally takes care of the normal medical requirements that you have you as an employee, but in case of a claim or where it was an accident or an injury at work, then the medical expenses usually are on reimbursement basis, where you take care of the medical expenses and then you file that as a claim and that is reimbursed.
Remember, here we have you in like an emergency kind of case whereby the employee is injured, so you need to get medical attention as quickly as possible, so that even maybe the injury does not escalate to something out of the norm. So it's very important just the employers to take care of the costs, and then the insurer, of course, will reimburse, given that filling after filling the claim forms and all.
That's clear. Allow me to just quickly go through the questions. I think they're coming in very quick. So there was one that says, during claims in the case of temporary incapacitated employee, where does the compensation go to, the employee or the employer? I think you covered this, Diana, in one of the questions that we answered. But then it further says, in this case, the employee is still paid by the employee. The employee is still paid by the employer, I think they meant to say, and if off work for almost 1 month. So did you get it? Or I can just repeat it.
I think I got it. And yes, usually the payment is done to the employer, because the WIBA cover is usually for the employer. And that is why, like Joe has just mentioned, the employer can actually assist the employee pay for their medical expenses, and then they will claim once the WIBA claim is fully settled. And so when it comes to compensation is usually done directly to the employer, who then remits to the employee. You could help me with the other bit, Joe?
Which one? In this case, the employee is still paid. But I think I've answered.
I think it's clear.
It's clear. It's clear. You've answered it correctly. That's fine.
I think the other question I'm seeing on the Q&A is, what are the rates for WIBA? And like we had earlier mentioned, the WIBA rates are dependent on the designation, but for remote workers or office workers or admin workers, usually the rate, especially in the Kenyan market, I assume, is 0.693%. And depending on what role you take up in an organization, then the rate goes higher from 0.693 up to, I think we have up to a 69.3%. So it depends with what role employees are taking in an organization. But of course, the riskier the role, the higher the rate.
Yeah. So also I can see a question here by Gilbert. I said Diana mentioned that correctly listing employees is important. Failure to do that might result in breach of contract. Now, what happens when an office employee visits the field unit and gets injured when in the field? So, Gilbert, here, this is a case of the employee is doing a task that maybe they were given, maybe to go visit the field unit. And if that injury occurs while at work, they'll be compensated because they're still doing the normal job that they're doing.
All right, thank you.
So there's another one here that, does it matter if accident happened within work institution or even outside? As long as it's within the normal working hours, this if we are talking about WIBA only, if it's within the working hours, you'll be compensated. But of course, as much, even if it's outside, let me assume, meaning outside is maybe you are going for another maybe task that you are given, or but if the outside means now maybe you're doing other things, not work related, the compensation might not be there. I remember that. Okay. There's also one, this is a good one. Please speak about WIBA in the home setting. Can I take WIBA for my house manager? So my best advice for this will be for you to take what we normally call a domestic package, like the home insurance. So with the home insurance, you can add, there's normally an added rider that you can cover your house manager who are in your house. So that will cater, and you'll find that the premiums are quite low, maybe between 500, 1,000 or 2,000 just for making that addition, depending on the limit that you want to cover them. Okay, maybe you can take the other one, Diana.
What if you die at work? Can your family sue the company for negligence in terms of probably no one attended to you? Probably there were no first aiders. I think this is a bone of contention. However, if death happened during work hours, then most times if the organization has a WIBA cover, then they will be able to compensate you and allow such compensations to take place. We also have most other employers having covers like group life covers. And so most of these covers should be able to take care of this. But in case the same does not happen, then you would require to actually prove that there was negligence and confirm that there were no even first aiders to be able to take care of your loved one.
Thanks, Diana, for that. I think we can continue. Sorry for the hitches on, and my backup really got messed up. I think there are more questions still coming in. I'll just brush through them. And feel free to pick any, Diana, that you see that you've not responded to, yeah?
I feel like, Jonathan, we have answered most of the questions here in a different perspective. Maybe we could go and review the questions later and see whether there is any we did not answer, then be able to compile them and answer and share with our audience, because we have their contact information. Then we should be able to cover anything that might have been left out.
There's one here I can answer, which says, what will be the appropriate steps if an employee had a previous medical condition that got worse due to the nature of their job? So remember here, as long as you had declared this, any pre-existing condition that you had, declared it in the form, you should be compensated. Otherwise, it will be an exclusion if you did not mention you had a certain condition in this case. Okay? So it's part of the terms and conditions. So it's very good. See, insurance just we depend on utmost good faith. So it's very important just to give the appropriate information to the insurer so that we see how we assess the risk that maybe we are taking up. Okay.
Yeah, that's clear. I can see that they keep on coming in. So as Diana said, we can always come back and pick on those. And respond to them on the go. And then, yeah, because we have the details, we'll just be able to respond to those as soon as we wrap up the call, and even within the course of the day tomorrow. And those that want us to even take a discussion further, say from an engaging perspective, maybe share some quotes, feel free to drop your questions as well. and even drop us an email to just engage us from a a compliance perspective. We can handhold you through the entire process of getting compliant. And at this point, I'd like to request, say Diana, for instance, just give us a parting shot of what it entails to, be WIBA compliant, and what are some of the benefits that companies will continue to enjoy, not only just being compliant from a WIBA perspective, but also being compliant through Workday.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. And as we reflect about our topic today, what we should be taking home is that WIBA is not just about compliance. It's about protecting employees and protecting our business continuity and building a culture that brings about credibility and retention of good talent, just to ensure that our organizations become valuable to our ecosystem. Therefore, compliance is not just the end goal, but the foundation of responsible leadership, because when organizations protect their people, then they protect their future. At Workday, we have managed to actually automate coverage by ensuring that every employer who joins us from onboarding perspective, then we are able to give them information about work injury covers. We are able to assist them be able to procure the same cover. We are able to ensure an end-to-end process from when you place cover, manage your employees, and also give you advanced information with respect to what to expect in case of a claim, do member education, of course, talk to your employees through your approvals, just to ensure that they actually get to understand and know what kinds of protection then they get from such covers. So in short, we are able to offer digital management, which then turns WIBA from a compliance headache and into a strategic HR advantage that protects you, your people, and the business. So if you ever need any guidance on WIBA, cover placement, claim support, integration through our Workday platform, then please do not hesitate to reach out. We are always ready and happy to help you to be able to protect what matters most. Thank you very much, Jonathan, and back to you.
Thank you for that amazing practice, Diana. And I'm sure our audience will definitely be glad to engage us. I'd like to pass the mic over to Joe to just give us a parting shot.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And so I'd like to thank the audience for listening in. But my parting shots would be by having WIBA, you ensure that you have legal compliance. That's number one. You protect your employees and their families, given that they are doing some good work for you. And also you safeguard your business from unexpected liabilities. So complying with WIBA is not about ticking a legal box. It's a risk management tool. As I started the webinar, it's all about transferring the risk from yourself to an insurer who can compensate you by protecting your workforce, your reputation, and also your financial stability. So it's one of the good tools, but I'm happy to have been in this session just to educate you more on WIBA. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you, Joe, for that. I think as we wrap it up, I'll just like to give us a feedback on the poll that we've had. And the last poll was: are you interested in follow-up calls to learn more about WIBA for your organization? And I can see a good chunk of the teams here have really asked that we reach out. Diana, we have at least more than 50% actually of the meetings that we do a follow-up. We reach out and enable them to be compliant, which is a great thing. I know we were not able to cover all the questions within this particular window, but most definitely we'll be happy to set up another session and just respond to all the questions that have been missed and any other questions that may come up. And then again, this is not the end the conversation, please feel free to reach out to us on our emails. Feel free to follow us on our channels from LinkedIn to YouTube. And our teams of experts will be more than happy to re-engage with you and take the conversation further. At this point, I'd like to thank you all for attending. And as we take this journey to the next step and be compliant, let's do this together, and let's do this in an integrated manner, and let's do this with one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.